A suspect is now in custody in the fatal shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, a development that brings a dramatic two-day manhunt to an end. The arrest was first revealed by former President Donald Trump during a Friday appearance on Fox and Friends. Speaking with what he called a high degree of certainty, Trump said the gunman had been captured. Hours later, Utah Governor Spencer Cox confirmed it in a brief press conference. "We got him." Law enforcement officials have identified the suspect as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson of Utah. Investigators say a decisive tip came from someone close to Robinson, reportedly a minister with ties to law enforcement, who helped persuade Robinson's father to encourage his son to surrender. Surveillance footage had already placed Robinson on the Utah Valley University campus on the morning of the shooting. When officers approached, he was wearing clothes that matched the images from the video, and a rifle believed to be the murder weapon was found in nearby woods where the suspect was seen fleeing. The shooting happened Wednesday during an outdoor event at Utah Valley University in Orem. About 3,000 people had gathered for one of Kirk's signature Prove Me Wrong debates when a single shot rang out. Fired from a rooftop roughly 400 feet away, the bullet struck Kirk in the neck, killing him almost instantly. Security video captured a figure sprinting across the roof and disappearing moments later. In the immediate aftermath, local, state, and federal agencies launched a massive search. The FBI offered a $100,000 reward, and images of a person of interest flooded social media, prompting thousands of tips. Those leads, combined with the family intervention, led authorities to Robinson. Charlie Kirk, 31, was a prominent and often polarizing voice in conservative politics. At 18, he co-founded Turning Point USA, building it into a well-funded presence on high school and college campuses nationwide. Known for fiery speeches and unwavering support for Donald Trump, he played a key role in mobilizing young voters within the MAGA movement. His death has sent shockwaves through the conservative community and reignited debate over political violence. Reaction was swift and intense. Trump called the killing a heinous assassination and said he hopes the perpetrator receives the death penalty, blaming what he termed the radical left. Mourners have gathered outside Turning Point USA headquarters in Phoenix, leaving candles, flowers, and handwritten notes. With Tyler Robinson now behind bars, attention turns to motive. Family members told investigators the suspect had become more political in recent years, but officials have not yet disclosed a clear ideological agenda. Prosecutors are expected to decide on formal charges in the coming days. For now, the country is left to grapple with the loss of a high-profile activist and the renewed reminder of just how combustible America's political climate has become.
A rare public rift has opened between two close allies over a deeply serious event. At its core is a simple question: was Russia's recent drone raid on Poland a mistake or a message? First, the facts. On the night of September 9, 2025, as Russia unleashed a massive wave of drones and missiles against Ukraine, 19 Russian-made drones crossed the border into Polish airspace. Poland is, of course, a NATO member, so the response was immediate. Polish jets and Dutch F-35s on NATO air policing duty scrambled and shot down several of the intruders, the first time NATO aircraft have engaged Russian hardware directly since the wider war began. Debris from at least 17 drones rained down on eastern Poland. No one was hurt, but property was damaged. The incident soon produced two sharply different interpretations. Asked about it, United States President Donald Trump ventured the incursion could have been a mistake. Warsaw bristled. Prime Minister Donald Tusk replied, "We would also wish the drone attack on Poland was a mistake, but it wasn't, and we know it." Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski noted that on the same night, Russia hurled more than 400 drones and 40 missiles at Ukraine. These were not mistakes. Most European officials side with Poland. They see a calculated provocation, a classic salami-slicing move meant to test NATO's defenses and political will without triggering an all-out response. Warsaw treated it that way too. Within hours, Poland invoked Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty, which calls the alliance into urgent consultation whenever a member feels threatened. Article 4 stops short of declaring war, but it is a serious step that has been used only a handful of times in NATO's history. NATO's public line has been one of unity. Secretary General Mark Rutte condemned Russia's reckless behavior and vowed that allies will defend every inch of Allied territory. German Patriot batteries went on high alert. Italian surveillance aircraft took to the skies, and Germany and France pledged extra fighter jets to reinforce Poland's air defenses. Moscow, for its part, denies targeting Poland and says there is no proof the drones were Russian. The disagreement between Warsaw and Washington is striking because Poland is usually one of America's staunchest partners in Europe. The split highlights two different instincts: Poland's conviction that Russia is deliberately probing NATO lines, and the United States President's initial impulse to de-escalate. Days after his mistake remark, Trump told Fox News his patience with Vladimir Putin is running out fast, adding another layer of ambiguity to Washington's stance. Poland is now taking its case to the United Nations Security Council. For Warsaw and its NATO allies, the stakes go far beyond a handful of downed drones. They see a deliberate test of the alliance's readiness and unity, one that could foreshadow bolder moves if it goes unanswered. So was it a mistake or a message? Poland's answer is unequivocal, and NATO's response suggests it agrees. This was a probe, and probes are meant to be met, not overlooked. The coming weeks will reveal whether the alliance can stay united under that assumption, and whether Moscow is ready to push the envelope again. Welcome to AITV News. Tonight's explainer looks at Friday's high-stakes meeting in New York between U.S. President Donald Trump and Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani. The sit-down follows an unprecedented Israeli airstrike in Doha that has rattled the region and put Washington's diplomacy under intense pressure. First, what happened? On Tuesday, September 9th, Israeli fighter jets struck a residential compound in Doha. Israel said it was targeting senior Hamas officials who were gathered to discuss a U.S.-brokered ceasefire and hostage release deal aimed at ending the nearly two-year Gaza war. 6 people were killed, 5 Hamas members and 1 Qatari security officer. Among the dead were the son and office director of Hamas's chief negotiator. Hamas claims its top leadership survived. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu framed the attack as retaliation for a recent assault in Jerusalem, declaring that the era of immunity for terror leaders is over. It was the first direct Israeli strike on Qatari soil, a dramatic escalation against a member of the Gulf Cooperation Council. The diplomatic backlash was swift. Doha condemned the strike as state terrorism and said Netanyahu had killed any hope for the hostage deal. All 15 members of the UN Security Council, including the United States, denounced the attack and urged de-escalation. The UN Secretary-General, the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan voiced similar outrage, calling it a blatant violation of Qatari sovereignty.
Washington now finds itself walking a tightrope. Israel is a long-time military partner. Qatar hosts Al Udeid Air Base, the largest U.S. facility in the Middle East, and has served as a crucial go-between with Hamas at Washington's request. President Trump publicly said he was not thrilled and very unhappy with the strike, adding that bombing a key U.S. ally does not advance Israel's or America's goals, even though eliminating Hamas leaders was, in his words, a worthy goal. Reports describe a heated phone call in which Trump told Netanyahu the strike was not wise and assured Al-Thani it would not happen again. The White House says it tried to warn Qatar, but the alert arrived too late. That brings us to Friday's meeting. For President Trump and Prime Minister Al-Thani, the agenda is damage control. They will aim to reaffirm the U.S.-Qatar security partnership, revive the ceasefire and hostage talks derailed by the strike, contain regional fallout so the crisis does not widen into a broader conflict. Qatar is also reassessing everything about its role as mediator. If Doha withdraws from shuttle diplomacy, Washington loses a critical channel to Hamas, and prospects for any negotiated end to the Gaza war dim further. Meanwhile, other Gulf states are questioning America's ability to shield its partners, adding another stress point to an already volatile landscape. Why should viewers care? Hostage lives. Scores of civilians remain captive. Progress on their release now hinges on repairing trust between Israel, Qatar, and the United States. Regional stability. A misstep could ignite a wider war that drags in Gulf states and jeopardizes global energy supplies. U.S. credibility. How Trump balances two feuding allies will signal to other partners, especially in the Gulf, how reliable Washington's security assurances really are. Friday's outcome won't resolve every issue, but it will set the tone for what comes next, either a path back to diplomacy or a slide toward deeper confrontation. We'll be watching.